So WALKJIVEFLY, let's start there. You had 5 questions that were at the head of the Discord questions posting. So, um, question one is, when are you going to deliver something, anything? All we've had for months is scope creep and empty promises. I get the impression from my chat with Perplexity, Bignoodle-general, that BN is not the only agentic AI in play that's having trouble getting a market maker or other funding properly interested. So I'm interested in some of your question, not all of it. Um, so scope creep, I would argue that we haven't had scope creep. I'm very familiar with scope creep from uh, like a decade and a half of doing client work. Scope creep is a constant thing I'm fighting, and that muscle of mine is well developed. Um, we pivot a bunch, and I think that's important in a space that's taking shape, and we're early here. It's going to be taking shape for a while, and to do consumer AI, it means keeping an eye on what's happening out there and what tools are available to us. You know, so pivots will exist, smart pivots, I hope, but I wouldn't say we've had scope creep. If you think there has been, I'm actually curious, just from a founder point of view, like what do you think we've done that looks like scope creep to you? Um, Lots of promises, yes, for sure. Everything takes time to build, so the promises, many of them are still getting worked on. Um, Delivery, yeah, I guess you could say we've been in build mode and trying to be a bit strategic about how to deliver the things we're building. Um, so with a token launch on the horizon, we were we were planning to have it already, but did some pivots. It kind of makes sense to really figure out the branding around launching multiple features that may seem disconnected otherwise, right? So been holding some of them in the back pocket, but they're all ready for testing by community or close to it. So let's get through that phase, and then they can all be features that are available via Web 2 type web interface. Um, soon after testing. So it's not. Maybe it'll be stair stepped in sequence, or maybe it'll be all at once. I don't know yet, but yeah, you'll see via testing that these things are working. So maybe you can consider them close to deliverable uh, with that. Um, Trouble getting market maker or other funding properly interested. So yeah, I didn't understand the part where you mentioned. I got the impression from my chat with Perplex. Oh, I get it. You were chatting with the Perplexity agent, and found that there are other AI agents out there. Yeah, I mean, true. That's. I don't know that we have competition exactly, or direct head-to-head competition with some of the features that we're cooking up, especially with something as foundational as the MCP middleware, because I think that's going to open a lot of doors for us without doing a lot of work. Um, so we've got our differentiators, but yeah, surely there's going to be. It's really easy to wrap an LLM, and so AI apps and AI agents. I'm using quotes. Uh, there's going to be a lot of them, but how much strength they have in the marketplace, I guess, is going to depend a lot on um, their product market fit and their ability to keep growing and evolving that product market fit. So I'm honestly, I haven't been worrying too much about that kind of stuff because I think a lot of the AI apps will burn out. If they are just wrappers, it's if you don't build anything foundational with the wrapper. I think it's great to bundle and integrate, but there needs to be something more than just be a rapper, right? And that's not what we are. We're not just a rapper. So let me see. Oh, and I wrote some of my answer to you. Uh, I'll just add that to that answer that some of the features here have evolved, and that's usually because once we start prototyping it, we find a better way and a good to do things. So a good example is that Adobe Premiere MCP control. In making that video, it led me to a better way to do it. So, there's time invested in doing it maybe in not the best way first to know how to pivot, and that's development. Your second question is, what's the plan if none of these market makers, VCs, angels, whatever, come through with the big money? The answer is we stick to the original plan. I have the OG Pass contributions. Um, the Some of it got spent during travels this past month, and like I needed a new laptop, so I actually spent some of that. But I'm putting it all back, so I'm not actually um, using the OG Pass money as kind of big noodle treasury for that kind of stuff. It's for a token launch. So whatever I used, putting it back, and so the idea is we can still stick with the Uniswap method and launch our token like we originally planned to, and then we just have to lean more into doing branding and marketing to make noise to create that awareness by finding a market maker or a liquidity provider. What that means is we can make noise on another level because the I've been asking for about 200K for that, and those some of those conversations are still ongoing. Plus the bit tensor conversations. So the idea there is that if any of those do come through, and giving ourselves a cutoff date so that we're not waiting around forever. I think we said end of July. I'll have to check again. Maybe it was middle. Um, to just call it and say, all right, enough with these market makers. We're gonna just do it grassroots. Um, the I think we'll know by end of July, August where we stand, and we'll go at our own. It just changes the strategy of how we go to market and how we kind of make noise out there. That's really the biggest difference. Okay, I think I answered that. So, three, how much was finally raised from OG passes? Okay, so I think we went over 75. I don't know if we quite hit 80. You know what? I'll have to. I can look and tell you exactly. I don't know right now. Sorry, I should have looked it up. Maybe I'll do an edit and add it on screen. And but we're over the 75. I think we're under 80, and we're in the range of 60, I guess, with me, saying I'm gonna put that back anyway. Um, so in US, and it's all in USDC. So we haven't been. Some days I wish it was in Bitcoin because we would have earned a bit, but no, it's all been in USDC, um, and it's still sitting there aside from like this laptop and some travels and stuff. So let's see. So number four, a 4,000 tax dodge is way outside my budget, but a $250 small noodle would be more doable. Who's so? Yep, I'm with you. The $4,000. So small noodle 179. That's the, as you call it, a tax dodge. It's really only designed for people seeking the tax expense and does not and don't earn tokens via the DPIN. Um, this is essentially that John Deere farm tractor or Mercedes G wagon customer, um, you know, who wants the write off. The small noodle MCP is the one better suited for earning on the DPIN and actually doing the agentic work on our network, and that'll be in the neighborhood of 250 or less, or a version of it at least. So yeah, I don't think the $4,000 small noodle 179. That one's not for you. That's for someone else, and that's got its own customer and kind of has nothing to do with all the agentic work we're doing, except for the idea that it serves a need that people believe are willing to pay for. We have a DPIN, so we get to justify it because it does do work on our network, and it's going to be a really powerful fiat income for our buy and burn. But that's not the miner for you. The miner for you is the MCP small noodle. So stay tuned for that. You asked who's making the hardware, who's distributing it, how much is international shipping. Okay, so the hardware in the really small version, we're using an Intel N150, so that's like a pretty underpowered chip. It runs well at something like 8 watts, up to 15 watts. It runs. it can run multiple Dockers, and within each Docker, it can run multiple browser use agents. So in my testing, it's been doing great. And I mentioned earlier about changing the thermal paste. It's like the only thing that's really going to be some manual labor on a workbench that needs to happen, because after changing the thermal paste, it can be overclocked actually, and it doesn't have a fan in it. So anyway, the so we've got a couple of manufacturers. One is Minis Forum, one is B-Link. At that level, there's a higher grade Ryzen based one that can do much more. It's much more capable and can run LLMs, and those get to be a little more money. I don't want to say any wrong prices now, but basically what we're looking at is like something that's very low cost, maybe in the 150 region, something that's a higher cost, maybe in the 3 to 350 region, and they're not computers that um, I'm not building the guts. I'm basically testing them so they run with our software stack, and then and run well, run reliably, run day and night. And you know, now that we've tested different hardware scenarios combinations, it's safe to say that it's going to run similarly across another vendor's similar combination of hardware, right? So it just needs to be tested for reliability, but not. But I wouldn't expect many surprises out of a combination of something like the N150 with 128 gigs of RAM and a big SSD. You know, so um, so there's that, and those guts are going into our enclosures because my day job for a long time, running an experiential design firm, essentially a marketing firm that where we do fabrication in house. We're good at that. So I already have the shop and the hardware and the people to be able to make our hardware look very customized, look very nice, and also improve cooling. And that's a plus on the hardware side. Like there's an actual reason for that, but otherwise, it's going to be mostly about an aesthetic that's Big Noodle's own, and that'll be on the hardware. So I think I rambled a bit on that answer, but let me see what I missed. So you asked how much is international shipping? Not sure on international shipping, to be honest. I'm not there yet, but distribution is going to be out of our location, but it can happen out of another location internationally. It's easy to get set up somewhere else with this, but I'm not there yet, so I don't have a good answer for you. And taxes. So I thought the taxes would be interesting to like we've got a tax miner basically, you know. So taxes I think can be built into a purchase price because in the big picture, you know, the network eats taxes basically. So it's one way to say it, I think, without getting anybody in trouble. Um, what's the use case going to be, and what's the potential reward for running one? Okay, I think in that case you're asking about the tax miner, and that is, I think I covered it. So, um, yeah. So I guess I'll just add this. There's two types of miner right now. One runs uh, all the non LLM, non GPU tasks that an agent will do, which is most of them, and that is where we get the efficiency. We can run a lot of what an agent does on low power CPUs instead of GPUs. And so that's one type of miner. The other miner, which is the Section 179 expense, helps upkeep the network as a handshaking agent. It's essentially an oracle, um, and so uh, you know they both have very different jobs, and one is much lower cost to build than the other. So there's that, and I think and the potential rewards. So yeah, that's a good question because back when I thought we were all gonna be sitting on multiple RTX 5090s, but Nvidia never really um, opened the floodgates, never released them. Uh, we were going to be a very GPU heavy network The GPUs aren't available though, so we're not a GPU heavy network today. So I was kind of looking at other mining ecosystems, including Ethereum in the old days, as a way to price what would make those miners happy. This changes a little when we're talking about energy sipping, very low power hardware. So we're looking at a lower return on investment because the initial buy-in is very cheap, and so the earnings can be lower also. So we're probably looking at a couple of bucks a day for round the clock use for agents. Um, and I think we don't need to finalize that today. That's a part of the Bignoodle DPIN ecosystem strategy that could definitely use a deeper dive, um, for sure. I did the deep dive and I did it with smarter people than me back when this was intended to be all GPU, but yeah, things have changed in terms of the hardware need and the hardware cost. So we should go back to the drawing board with what those rewards are. And your last question is, what's the plan for covering the communication gap or the gaping communication gap? Okay, great question, and kind of everybody asks this because I do go away and you guys don't hear from me for a while. And then I come back with a bunch of news, and it's been a pattern. So I get it. And let me bring the camera view back. Oh, it's getting dark. Okay, so the answer to that question is I reached out to a few people, but really only spoke to one so far, and that's because you guys may know him as DriftNZ or PJNZ, and we get along great. I mean, I get along with almost all of you great, but he and I have spoken in DMs and in some of the other channels at different points because he works in VFX, and I don't think I'm blowing up his spot by saying that. I think this is not private info. Sorry if it is, Drift, but so he's got some motivation for how to use agents, how to use it in his field, and I expect also an interest in like how his field might change at his day job. So and be ahead of the curve, right? And my interests are similar because I come from in my past, and part of my marketing agency was very much focused on what we might call creative content today, or I used to shoot and edit, and I used to be an animator. Even when that transition happened from big dedicated studios to the desktop in the 90s, like I was there for that. So I'm really interested, and it started with Heroes, and it's still a big interest of mine is in how uh, all that's going to get disrupted. And so he and I share that. We chat occasionally, and we chat really comfortably. And so he's my first. He's the first person who said yes, he'll do it. And after asking, I would like you to be the one. And I don't know if it's blowing up his. Yeah, maybe I won't say where he's from, but he's in a very different time zone. So that's probably helpful too. I'm based in San Francisco, even though I'm in New York now, and so he'll be able to cover hours that I normally wouldn't, even when I'm not, going heads down to cook for a week or two. So yeah, a long way to answer the question is Drift NZ is going to be a point of contact who just has open lines of communication to me and not just through Discord, or I haven't given him my personal email address yet, but he'll have it. He'll have all of it. And there's a couple more. I don't. Maybe I shouldn't name them yet because it's not been officialized. But there's a few people who offered, and so in the past I didn't want to ask for anybody's help this way without being able to pay them. But I think it's definitely time to break this pattern and let me actually disappear and cook without it being a problem, right? So yeah, he's gonna be the first line of defense, and we got a few more who's gonna jump in with the same tasks. So I think and Drift NZ is the next set of questions. I think maybe I'll stop here for now so I can have a sip of my coffee and maybe change the lighting in here. because this video is running very long. Um, this clip is at 25 minutes, just about, and I don't know how long the previous clip was. So, and I got a bunch more questions to go through. So I don't know. Maybe I'll split this up into a couple of different postings. That's probably a good idea. But okay, stopping for now.